You're listening to Prosper in the Kingdom, the podcast where faith meets practical strategies to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Join hosts John Cleaver and Wendy Lee as they share insights to equip you in your journey toward abundance, spiritually, financially, and beyond. Just a reminder, every situation is unique. The content of this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as specific financial or medical advice.
Hello. Another Wednesday and another Prosper in the Kingdom. John and I are here. Hey, John. How's it going?
Awesome. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Excited about this topic.
Excited
I'm excited about this topic. Yeah.
Good. Me too. It's my favorite thing to talk about, actually. So we're here, Prosper in the Kingdom. We teach you how to become more healthy, wealthy, and wise. Love to talk about financial stewardship. And today we're going to be talking about something that most people don't think about, don't know about, don't ask about, and haven't questioned. So I know from my perspective, this is something I was clueless about until I actually started working with John. So, but if we take a step back and look at how money flows through our life, there is a pattern. And we deposit money in a bank. And if you have a savings account, you earn very little from that savings account. You borrow money and you pay a lot more back, right? We work with people all the time with debt, and we think nothing about paying 24 to 29% interest on what we purchase. But somehow over time, it feels like we're always sending money out. Can anyone feel me on that one? Yeah, but not keeping as much in as we should. And so that's not by accident. This is a designed system to keep you broke and other people with money. So today we're going to talk about a different way to think about it. One that more families are starting to pay attention to, and that's a concept we call the family bank. Yeah. So I'm actually John's going to lead this discussion because he's the expert, and I'm the cheerleader today.
I don't know about that, but okay. No, so that's the whole point, right? She brought up something, and I, just kind of give you some of my background. I've talked about it in the past before, but I got into banking back in the early 90s. So I know a thing or two about how the bank system works. Mm-hmm. And like Wendy said, it's not designed to work for you. It's designed to work for the banks. I mean, to keep it simple, let's just kind of look at it like this. Follow your money, right? As Wendy said, we put money in the bank. We pay our mortgage payments. We've got car loans. We got credit cards. We got personal loans. Inside all of those are interest, right? You're paying the bank interest. And, most of those loans, I want to keep this real too. If you've ever looked at your mortgage payment, and maybe you've got a fantastic rate of 3%, you were back in the low rate days. And even if you've got those super great rates, or even if it's 6%, look at the percentage of your mortgage payment every month that's going towards interest versus going towards principal, mm-hmm. right? It's because they do what's called front load all the interest. So they want all their interest up front, especially on a mortgage loan, because mortgage loans only last typically 6 to 7 years. And I know you're thinking, wait a minute, I've got a 30-year mortgage. Correct. But most mortgage loans specifically refinance within 6, 7, 8 years. So they want all that interest up front, and then they're going to push you to do it again. Even if you get a better rate, look at the numbers. Look at the actual dollars coming out of your pocket. You end up paying quite a bit more. So run the numbers. It's all math, right? No emotion. But, again, inside of all those different things we do, it's interest. Now let's flip that around a little bit. Okay. Where are you earning interest? Okay. So for most people, it's minimal. You got a savings account. I mean, let's be honest. If you're at a bank, especially a large national bank, you're getting 0.0 nothing, as in it doesn't matter, because it doesn't really matter. Apply that rule of 72 we've talked about in the past. But you look at that over time, what's really happening? Well, money is constantly flowing away from you mm-hmm. and towards the financial institutions. And folks, I'm here to tell you that is by design. Okay, that is by design. And here's the part that most people miss, right? It's not about one bad decision. It's about that pattern that plays out over 10, 20, 30 years. And it's a slow, consistent transfer of your wealth to, the big banks and things like that, even credit unions to some degree or whatnot. But we just sit there and we just kind of take it because it's the system, right? It's, well, that's what you do, right? It's like, well, hey, I need a bank account to keep my money safe. I'm not making any interest on it, and they're lending it out, at 3, 4, 5 times the rate. And sometimes here's the funny part. I mean, think about it. Let's say you've got a big chunk of cash sitting in the bank, right? Or even a small chunk of cash sitting in the bank, but you've got a credit card from that same bank. They're lending you your own money back at a much higher interest rate. I mean, so it's kind of crazy when you think about it like that, but hey, that's the reality of it. And most people just smile and nod and go, okay, well, that's how we do it, right? No, that's how you do it. Okay. So let's contrast this, right? Here's what wealthy families do. And like I said, when I was coming up, I was fortunate enough to be able to meet some people that were making way more money than I had, was making at the time, and then also had a lot more assets than I had at the time. Mm-hmm. And they were kind enough to kind of pull back the curtain, think Wizard of Oz, and kind of show me, hey, you can do this too, John. So that was kind of the formulation for Prosper in the Kingdom, right? PITK. It's like, why can't we teach this to Main Street America? I'm not doing the radio guru thing where we talk about the basic stuff and then, okay, go figure it out. That's not what we do. We're teaching you kind of high-end tactics that you can do just on a smaller scale. The mechanics still work the same, right? So when you look at the families who build and keep wealth over time, one thing stands out. Hear me on this. They focus on controlling capital. Okay. They focus on controlling capital. They don't just think like we do. Well, how do I earn more money? Right. And that's what middle class is. I just had a great conversation last night with some people, and they agreed. I was like, yeah, I know how to make money. I know how to make money, but we don't know how to control their capital. We don't know how to multiply it. And that's what, like when he said, that's what we're all about here, showing you how to make more money, income streams, how to manage that money better, be good biblical stewards of your money, right? Don't bury your talents, go out and multiply them. And then the last one is obviously multiply, right? So wealthy people are thinking, how do I keep working inside? How do I keep my money working inside of my system? Okay, so it's working 24/7. And that shift alone kind of changes everything. And I know some of you are like, that just went way over my head. Well, we're going to explain it, right? So because of in defaulting to that, where do I borrow money? If I have an expense come up, or I have an opportunity, or I want to buy a house, where do I borrow money? That's what we think. I got to get my car fixed. Where can I borrow the money to do that? I want to buy the house. I want to buy the car. Where do I borrow the money to do that? And we start thinking, especially in middle class, monthly payments, right? So the question really should be, and this is what the wealthy do, is how do I create access to my own capital, right? Because most of you that are listening, you're probably doing a 401k or 403b. You can't access that. And I know some of you, well, I can get a loan, through my 401k. Yeah. And you've got to pay it back with interest that, maybe you get, maybe you don't. But this is where the foundation of the family bank concept kind of started, right? It's I want to have liquidity of my own funds. I want to have my own bank. So that's what we're going to dive into a little bit today, is what is a family bank, right? Well, first of all, let's say what it's not. Number one, it's not a physical bank, right? You're not going to go have the Bank of Wendy, in some old bank building that you bought in some small town America. We're not talking about that. It's not a complicated trust structure or anything like that. It's something it's not something that's reserved just for the wealthy. Now, traditionally it has been, because they've had access to that knowledge, right? But it's something that everybody can do. Like I said, the mechanics still work the same, even on a smaller scale. So if you're not putting tens of thousands in, but you're putting tens of hundreds in, it still works, right? At the core, it's just simply a strategy, right? I don't know if you have something you wanted to add in there, Wendy.
Nothing, except that I was thinking of my favorite Christmas movie, "It's a Wonderful Life," when you were talking about.
Oh my gosh, yeah. What was that guy's? Who was the main character? Oh my gosh.
Now you're going to say that, and I don't know.
Yeah, I know it was Pottersville. Potter was the bad guy.
Yeah.
So anyway,
but yeah, he was the bad guy, but had the bank, and they were trying to bankrupt everybody. And
exactly, right?
Anyway, but no, we're not building a physical bank. But I love this concept, and I know you're going to dive more into it. But one of the first books we read when I started working with you was "What Would the Rockefellers Do?" And it talks about this idea. And I lived in Nashville, so down from the Vanderbilts, Vanderbilt
Yeah.
world. And they compared like Vanderbilt's not doing this idea and just trust fund kids versus
Yep.
the Rockefellers who use the family bank concept. So
Yeah, and the Rockefellers are still rocking well, right, with
Mhm.
finances. I mean, they've got millions going into foundations and charities, and I think last count the money that they have supports or helps support like 150 families that have branched off from the Rockefellers. Flash over to the Vanderbilts, they're broke. It doesn't exist anymore, right? Because they were a bunch of trust fund kids that didn't structure properly. But so let's go back. So the family bank concept is really about building a pool of capital, right? Just like your 401k or whatever, but it's got different mechanisms. Number one, it's got the ability to grow, right? And I'm not talking, I know some of you people are out there like, oh yeah, I know about family bank. You use whole life insurance. No. I'm not a fan of whole life insurance unless it's for final expense. I run the numbers 6 ways to Sunday, and back in the 80s, 90s, okay, maybe whole life was a great strategy, double-digit returns. You look at what they've been paying out with dividends and everything else over the last 10, 15, 20 years, not so sexy anymore. But again, you want your family bank to have that ability to grow, protected from major losses, right? You don't want your bank to go under, okay, because that kind of defeats the purposes. And it can be accessed when needed, basically 24/7, anytime, right? I don't have to wait till I'm 59 and a half or anything like that. And that's really the key component to it, right? So many people start building wealth, or they think they're building wealth, and what they're really building is retirement, meaning, oh, when I get to my 70s and 80s, I can access that. That's good. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's better than nothing, and that should be part of your overall plan. But what we talk about at Prosper in the Kingdom is building wealth. Okay, we don't want you to wait to your 70s and 80s. We want you to have access to your money in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. And this is where that family bank concept comes in. So that way, when you have opportunities to come up and buy, real estate at a discount, or buy a business that's, going under, that you can quickly turn around and, get it back up and running and turn a profit on it. That's what we want to do. And so, now instead of going outside of your system, your money system, right, to a bank to borrow money, you go internally to your own and you begin to build something inside, right? And over time, that gives you more control in how money moves within your life. Okay. And that's key, right?
Yep.
So kind of looking at the overall strategy. And like I said, you heard there's a lot of books written on it. What would the Rockefellers do? They talked about the family bank strategy as well. Great book, especially when you're looking at trust strategies and things like that. Again, they use a whole life insurance strategy. I am not a fan of that. But let's just kind of tag onto that head on, right? If you've heard of family bank before, you more than likely tied it to whole life strategy. But here's the issue with that, right? You've got 3 ways you grow money in America, okay, as far as legal ways. Okay, there's a lot of others, but we're talking the legal stuff. So number one is fixed rate of return, right? Think CD, think your savings account, stuff like that. Not real exciting, but it's steady Eddie, okay? And you're not really, in most cases, even outpacing inflation. I mean, you've got some of the top leaders in whole life paying out 4 or 5, maybe 6%. I'm going to stick closer to 4 or 5. Well, if inflation's hovering at 3 to 4, that's the official government record. Yeah. You're really only making 1%.
Yeah.
You're going to get rich on that one. And that's what I don't like about it, right? The growth is limited. The flexibility is reduced, right? Because you got those low returns. So you got to worry about, it imploding on itself. And it can take years before it even breaks even, right? But some people, hey, they may feel like it's safe. Okay, I don't have to worry about it. But in reality, what's going on is it really slows down your ability to build momentum. And that's key, right? Success loves momentum. So instead of focusing on low performing fixed assets, what we build, again, our planning approach is a holistic approach. It's biblically based, kind of really looking at what's going on and how can you maintain control over your financial future and be a good steward of that money so you can go out and bless others, bless the kingdom, bless your church and things like that. But I like market-driven growth. Why? Because it's just better. I mean, as far as the returns that you can expect and things like that. but you have to have that protection in place, that hedge, right? When the market drops, because you don't want to, again, you don't want to lose money out of your bank. And so that's the key. It's not, you're not capped at low returns. You've got, and that's a traditional market. Well, we're going to put you in low risk, low risk funds or whatever. Okay. Low risk means low rewards in most cases, but not when you wrap a hedge around it. And so the thing is, and that's the whole protected asset class we talk about. I get market driven gains. I've got that safety net, that hedge that if the market drops, I don't maybe gain that year, but I don't lose any of my money. Okay. So it puts you in a much higher return potential. And that's the combination that really makes the family bank work long term.
Yeah. That's good stuff. By the way, it was George. George is the character, and it's one.
Oh, that's right. I'm like, who's George? That's right. It was.
It's George. I thought that, and then I hesitated. But anyway, I love the family bank concept. And like you said, you started to say there's 3 ways to grow money: the fixed, and then you have the market-driven returns, and then you've got the index returns, where it looks at the market and then can protect against loss, like John was saying. And that's what we use with this family bank concept. And when you combine those things, your growth, the protection, and being able to access it, that's huge.
Liquidity is key.
Yeah, that's when you can really start to create wealth, because like I love when we work with people in their 20s and early 30s, because it's like what they're building. And when they start their family bank young, what they're building, then, when they're 40 and they want to like build a real estate portfolio, they can borrow from themselves. And, and that's powerful, especially, because so many people, like you said, have their money that they're investing, maxing out their 401k, and they're tying up all of those funds and not able to do anything with it until retirement years. And, we have these prime years that you can be building wealth with other systems. So I love that. We're not just in this family bank concept. We're not just not just saving money, not just socking away, but you're actually building a system where your capital can grow over time, where you have access when opportunities come up, and you're not constantly relying on outside lenders. I mean, I know it's silly, but one of the things that drew me into seeing this is like, because listen, we all have to buy cars throughout our life. I will never buy a new one. But like, what if I could borrow from myself and pay myself back interest for my own car? It just makes me feel a lot better. So I know that's a small scale thing that we teach that you can do, but it's like, for me, that was like, oh.
Yeah. And let me kind of expand your mindset, you, the listener, right? So you start thinking about it. Let's say you're a business owner. Okay. So you've got your own family bank that now your company can borrow money from you, the individual, right? And pay yourself back with interest. So that interest is a business expense, right? And so you start, don't get me wrong, I'm not giving tax advice, talk to your accountant, but looking at the number of things you can do, because it is so flexible. And, that's something where, hey, some businesses are cyclical, right? So you have your bounty season, then you've got your skinny season. Maybe it's in the winter or whatever the case. So help meeting expenses, payroll, and things like that. You can borrow it from yourself, from your family bank, just like you would from Bank of America, Chase Bank, or whatever, a business loan. You borrow it from your own bank, your family bank, and then your business pays you back with interest. So, there's a flexibility. There's a lot you can do with that. So,
yeah. And this is what the high net worth people are doing. They're leveraging strategies like this on a regular basis. And, I tell people all the time, like I've been lucky in my career. I've been surrounded by multimillionaires and billionaires. Like I know them by name, can call them on the phone. And everyone that I know that's multimillionaire has strategies like this set up. But literally, when you ask them, can I talk to your guy or your girl or whatever, it's, well, you need $1 million up front, or you need this up front. Like, and so what I love about what we do at Prosper in the Kingdom is, John mentioned this earlier, but the strategy is the same if you're using millions or you're using thousands, right? Like, so I love that we teach these concepts to everyone and give this opportunity to everyone, because it's not, we're not taught this. And I know for me, myself, like when I first did a financial plan with you, John, and you showed me this concept, I was like, what? Like, I started telling everyone, you guys need to go meet with John, because I couldn't believe like what could be built in, you know, in just such a different way than all the things I've been taught. And to me, like understanding all these different ways to grow money. And listen, there's not a one size fits all. And not everyone that does this concept, this family bank concept, knows what they're doing. PS, by the way. And there's different ways to structure these things. And so what I love too about what we do is look at what are your goals with it? Is it real estate? Is it, you know, just supporting your lifestyle? Is it business investment? Like, what is it? And we can help you structure it the right way.
Yeah. And if you touch on that, when she made the statement, you know, a lot of people don't know what they're doing. She was talking about other advisors / and insurance salespeople that are just pushing a product, because that's one of the big challenges is making sure that your family bank is designed properly. Okay. What I mean by that is maximizing the funding of it, minimizing any costs in it, you know, even tied to any insurance or admin fees or anything else, lowering and reducing that even more so over time. Because again, at the end of the day, it's all about the tax breaks, the liquidity, the protection, because there's a lot of other protections and stuff like that as well. But the family bank concept, it's a game changer. And it just frustrates me that, you know, why aren't we taught this stuff in school? Right? Why aren't they teaching this stuff? And that's something. It's like those life skills that they used to teach. They should also be teaching, you know, how do I manage and multiply my money as I earn it through life. So
yeah, absolutely. And you know, listen, it's not about just avoiding banks completely. It's about understanding how the system works and deciding how much control you want over your own money. Yeah. And so we say the scripture a lot, but Proverbs 21:5 says the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. So it's always comes back to having a plan. You can have a vision and a hope for the future, but to get there, you need a plan and you need wisdom. I love the book of Proverbs. I read it all the time because it's all about Solomon's wisdom that God gave him so he could truly build wealth and be a blessing, right? So we've got to have a plan, got to be intentional. And, you know, be intentional about building something that actually supports your future and not just funds someone else's. So if this idea of a family bank is new to you, we are actually hosting a masterclass next Thursday. So the last Thursday in March, 2026. If you're listening on the podcast, this might be past, but we probably have something for you anyway. But we're going to break this down. John's going to break this down in a practical, real world way and show you what this truly looks like in more detail than the concept we've talked about today. So there will be a registration link in the show notes that you can grab or just comment below registration or masterclass.
Family bank.
We'll get that over to you. You can also, if you can't make it on that Thursday, always you can go to safemoneyroadmap.com and get your wealth map. And in that, we will talk about this concept if that's something you want to learn about. So.
Yeah, there you go. So good stuff, folks. And like I said, you know, our whole purpose of existence, Prospering the Kingdom, is to teach you, the listener, everyday Joe, everyday Jane out there, regular folks, how you can make, manage, and multiply and build wealth, not just retirement for you and your family, so you can have an impact not only in your life, get rid of that stress, get that debt monkey off your back, and also start being generous in the kingdom, right? To your church, to your family, and things like that. Don't just sit around and hope it all works out. Start listening to what we're doing. If you liked what you heard today, give us a thumbs up, give us a, subscribe. And we've got a bunch of information. We're coming up on episode 100. I think this may be episode 100 on the podcast. And we've got over 200 plus videos on our YouTube channel, all filled with information that you can use and apply today on your scale, your budget, wherever you're at. So don't sit around and just hope it all works out. Start educating yourself and taking action. and show a little love. It takes nothing for you to click that like button, that heart button, and share it with your friends and family. And like I said, make sure you subscribe. If you're listening to us on a podcast, 5-star review would be fantastic. So hopefully everybody had a happy St. Patty's Day yesterday, and we'll see you next week on another Prospering the Kingdom. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Prosper in the Kingdom. If this episode added value to your day, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with someone who could use the encouragement. For more resources, head to prosperinthekingdom.com. Let's continue building lives of purpose and abundance, one step at a time.